When I was a kid, Chuck E. Cheese was my favorite place. The bright lights, the games, and of course the pizza always made me feel like I was stepping into a magical world. But there was one night that changed everything and made me see Chuck E. Cheese in a completely different light. It was my 10th birthday, and I was excited to celebrate with my friends. We ran from game to game, collecting tickets and stuffing our faces with pizza. As the evening wore on, I noticed a small door in the back corner of the restaurant that I had never seen before. It was old and slightly ajar, like it had been forgotten by time. Curiosity got the better of me. I glanced around to make sure my friends were preoccupied, then tiptoed over to the door. I pushed it open just enough to peek inside. The room was dark and musty, filled with the faint smell of dust and something else I couldn't quite place. My heart raced with a mix of excitement and fear. I stepped inside, and the door creaked shut behind me. The room was filled with old, forgotten Chuck E. Cheese memorabilia, tattered posters, dusty animatronics that looked like they hadn't moved in years, and a strange collection of toys that seemed to glow eerily in the dim light. In the center of the room was a large, worn-out table covered in crumbs and old party hats. But what caught my eye was a small, flickering light coming from an old television set in the corner. I moved closer, my curiosity piqued. The screen showed a grainy video of Chuck E. Cheese in his heyday, dancing and singing to cheerful music. As I watched, the music began to distort, the cheerful tune turning into a creepy, warped melody. Suddenly, the screen flickered, and a different image appeared, a dark room filled with shadows and faint whispers. I felt a chill run down my spine as I heard a voice say, "Come play with us." Panic set in. I turned to leave, but the door wouldn't budge. I pulled and pushed, but it was stuck tight. The lights in the room began to dim, and I could hear faint giggles coming from the shadows. My heart raced as I realized I was not alone. I turned back to the television, which now showed Chuck E. Cheese looking directly at me. His eyes glowed in the dark, and his smile had turned into a sinister grin. "You shouldn't have come here," he said, his voice deep and menacing. "This is where the forgotten kids come to play forever." Just then, the shadows shifted, and I could see shapes moving towards me. Other children, their eyes wide and empty, faces frozen in eternal smiles. They reached out, their hands stretching toward me, as if begging for someone to join them in their dark game. Desperate, I slammed my shoulder against the door. With one last effort, it creaked open, and I stumbled out into the main area of Chuck E. Cheese, gasping for breath. I turned to look back, but the door had already vanished, replaced by a wall of colorful posters. My friends were still playing games, completely unaware of what had just happened. I tried to tell them, but my words fell flat. The joy I once felt at Chuck E. Cheese was gone. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had escaped something sinister, something that still lingered in the shadows of that forgotten room. From that day on, I never went back to Chuck E. Cheese. I told myself it was just a childhood fantasy, a figment of my imagination. But deep down, I knew the truth. Some places hide secrets that are better left undiscovered, and Chuck E. Cheese was one of them.